Welcome to a football show, Monday edition. Hope everyone is dried out and slept up since Swizzle left town at about 2 a.m. on Monday morning. Welcome to the show, brought to you by Sinkers and the Kingston Group, our two great and amazing sponsors. He is Zach Lyons. I am Braden Gall. Zach, how are you, sir?
Doing good. I had a weird weekend. We went downtown to Nashville twice. One for Geodis Park, where we're going to be talking about later about the horrible attendance. I guess the etiquette of the people attending the soccer game, which was a fantastic soccer game and an overall A+ stadium experience. But the people attending, they gotta learn some fucking manners. And then the Taylor Swift thing on Friday, we went down trying to score last-minute tickets. That did not work out for anyone.
I saw some tickets that were like previously like $250 on sale for like $2,000. It never even crossed my mind. Never even crossed my mind to go. I am one of those people that is. I like Taylor Swift. I am pro Taylor Swift. I'm not sure I've heard a single one of her songs all the way through to the end, but I like Taylor Swift as the person. I like her, the community person. I like that she writes her own songs. I think she's very good at what she does. But this like $3,000 for a concert ticket, like I'm not sure unless it's Led Zeppelin at Madison Square Garden, like in 1972. I'm not sure there's a band that's worth paying that amount of money for.
Listen, Lauren,
and I love music.
Lauren asked for my birthday because one of her friends is at the Blink-182 concert up in Chicago this past weekend, and she goes, "There's some. I can get 4 tickets for $300 a piece for Blink-182," and I go,
"What?
Hell no!" I said no. And I said, "Listen, I know it's for my birthday." I said, "Listen, I like Blink-182, but unless it's Foo Fighters up front, I am not going and paying that amount of money for any kind of concert ticket. Like,
so
spend it $100 max.
Yeah.
But if it's in the nosebleeds, I still ain't going because it ain't worth it to me."
So what's your age again? What are you?
There you go.
Like 37, 38, 37. Happy birthday coming up.
I thought you were making a Blink-182 reference.
I was.
What's your age again?
I was. It was both. I wanted to know what your age was.
38 in July.
So listen.
And then did you see my tweet yesterday?
No.
We were just up at the bar and she was looking at Ed Sheeran tickets because I was telling her about I saw some tweet, I think it's from Christopher Martell, about how Ticketmaster's charging fees. Of course, the standard complaint about Ticketmaster tweet. And she looked yesterday at the Ryman, Braden, $11,000 per ticket for Ed Sheeran. Someone literally got on there and put that up on. Like,
well, they didn't get it, did they?
Well, I don't think so. I mean, that concert's not till June or July or something. But like, that person should have to put their home address and should be publicly shamed on Ticketmaster. Like, if you're gonna have the gumption to charge that much for Ed Sheeran at the Ryman, $11,000 per seat, we should be able to come to your house.
Shit out of you. you just get doxxed automatically. No, the most I think I've ever paid for a single band, like there's certain, like Bonnaroo tickets used to be like $250 or whatever, and that's for like 50, 60, 70 bands over 3 days. The most I think I ever paid was like $240 for Billy Strings tickets at the Ryman, and that was kind of an accident because one of our buddies had bought in the whole package, and we were just like, yeah, go for it. He bought 4 of them, and then he told us later how much it cost. But like, I still would have. It was still probably worth it because he's that great. But I don't know if I would have said yes ahead of time. I still think he's spectacular. So it was kind of, I was fine with it. It was great, but it's one of those where it's like that amount of money on accident is like the only way it happens. So like, Billy Strings is great, but
the most I spent for a concert is when we went for that when the Foo Fighters came out with Sound City and did that full like big extravaganza in Washington D.C. on the 4th of July, like outdoor concert all damn day. You get Joan Jett, all that kind of stuff, and we got tickets for that. That's the most I've ever spent on a concert. But like for me, it's like, I like concerts. They're okay. They're not my jam because I hate people. And so, but like for Steel Panther, we just went to Steel Panther a couple weeks ago, and that was like $50 a piece. I think it may even been $35 a piece. It was like $35 a piece, and it's like one of the best concerts you can go to because it's just fun.
And that amount I paid for the Billy String show was aftermarket because it's the Ryman and like all this other stuff. Now, if Tim's talking about flying out to Arizona, and I'm like, if you start counting travel, and then I'm like, oh well, I saw Jack White at Red Rocks, and my wife and I, then you're talking flights and stuff, and I'm not kind of counting that. I'm just saying like tickets
Because you can kind of turn that
general.
into like a vacation
Right.
at the same time. I mean, if you're just going for just the concert and you're going to the concert, then coming back, then yeah, you should have to count all that. If
No.
you're
We always,
days doing other stuff.
my wife and I always do, like, before we had kids, at least, we always do like the 4-day, like, all right, we're going to do a concert, but then we're also going to do a hike and we're going to do some dinners. Like, it's a whole 4-day weekend or whatever.
Yeah.
So, okay, we got a lot of stuff.
Someone on Twitter said they can't comment in the YouTube chat, but Tim Dodge just commented in the YouTube chat.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
We got to feed the hamsters here, man. We got to make sure the hamsters are fed.
And listen, if you hear this and see this, stop sending technical difficulties to us. Support at StreamYard.com. Support at StreamYard.com because everything's fine on our end. I'm not going to try to fix it. And like D Good, I guess, is Real Good and Real Goody and D Good. They're the same guy, right?
And Trey's they're all posting in the YouTube section. So here's what's coming up on the show, by the way. Brought to you by Sinkers and the Kingston Group. The Kingston Group, buildkg.com. Don't make any decisions. You guys know the drill. Don't make any decisions about your house till you talk to the Kingston Group, buildkg.com. And the defending champion, #1 liquor store in Nashville in 2022, Sinkers Beverages in East Nashville, their sister store up in Hendersonville, Bluegrass. Make sure you go check them both out. Sign up for the In Crowd, which is just sort of like their customer appreciation thing. It's not a whole lot. You don't have to do any effort. You just go sign up for the In Crowd. They track all your stuff, and then they give you cool stuff like allocations, special tastings. They're going to, not only are they going to take care of you in the store like they normally would, but they got all this extra cool stuff that's going on as well. So make sure you sign up. It's sort of VIP club there for folks that shop at Sinkers and Bluegrass. And of course, you can search Uber Eats for Sinkers. They'll deliver the booze right to your house, Sack Lions.
They drive so you can drink.
And there were a lot of people out this weekend, so I hope all of you were driving safely.
Lifted.
We'll get to the stadium rent later on. So the big topic today on the show is we're going to sort of focus on the young pass catcher, since we kind of know, at least for now, what the group of receivers and tight ends and running backs may look like for the Tennessee Titans. We're going to do that. That's going to be the main conversation. Expectation setting, right? Treylon Burks, Chigakonkwo, Kyle Phillips. What could this offense actually look like from those young pass catchers? How good could they actually be? How concerned are we? Especially if they're going to be the worst receiving core, according to some on the Twitter sphere, Zach. Just some. But of course, the Derrick Henry rumors just don't ever go away. They're just constantly there. I'm not really surprised, I guess, Zach, that they haven't gone anywhere. I just don't think. I think we're at a point where I'm not sure what new information matters. Zach, what are the latest rumors? And then explain to me why this would even be a thing the Titans would consider.
Well, the latest rumor is that the Titans are expected to extend Derrick Henry. Now, take it with a grain of salt. It's the Titans Upload Network, which has a pretty good hit rate, but they really bombed. Their last news breaking thing was the Jets and Ryan Tannehill trade compensation that we discussed on the show. That ended up with them getting the Jets fans in their mentions, blasting them about being stupid and moronic, and then they backtracked it saying it was a joke. So we'll see. But they've had, outside of a few instances like that, have had a really good track record. Now, I don't know whose source it is out of the Titans Upload Network, because they have like 15 different people, and it's typically Big Sportsman 3 or Big Sportsman 6. But the guy they had doing the video, I don't know if you watched the video. I sent you the link, but I don't know if you watched the video. But the guy doing the video was probably the least qualified person to do the video. And I felt bad for him because he just was kind of in over his head.
Is this the same people guys that reported that Lawan would come back on a smaller deal?
Oh, yeah. You remember the Lawan? Yeah, that was the guy. I forgot about the Lawan thing. That too. So that and the Tannehill thing. So they went like 0 for 2 over the offseason. Now they're back. Can the Titans extend Derrick Henry? Yes. Can they theoretically restructure Derrick Henry? Yes. Is that in the Titans' best interest, though? Maybe. I'll give you a scenario. Okay. So let's say they extend or restructure Derrick Henry, and that is easier for another team to take on that trade contract in a trade on week 8. Okay. So trade deadline. So it could.
So if I were to ask you, what is the value of reducing his cost this year? There's not a lot of value in reducing the cost this year for the Titans, because unless they're going to go trade for DeAndre Hopkins, I guess, and his large contract, there's not a real need to save money for this team in the immediate future. But you're saying that the reason they might want to reduce that number is to make it even more palatable trade at some point down the road, either tomorrow or in week 7 or 8, you're saying?
Yeah, I mean, that would be one reason behind it. The other reason is that Derrick Henry and them have talked behind closed doors, and Tim Dodge put this up right here. If they extend his, though, I assume he'll retire a Titan, extend his contract. I think that could be a conversation that maybe they had. Say, hey, Derrick, how long you want to play? And he maybe says like 1 or 2 more years tops. And they're like, okay, let's do a little extension, help each other out. You know, a restructure, there's 2 different restructures, just a simple restructure, and then there's a more advanced restructure. A simple restructure only saves you about like $6.2 million. That means you're taking some money from this and going, because there's 2 void years, and expanding that over to those 2 void years, this year and 2 void years. So 3 years maximum, you're spreading that out. So it only saves you about $6 million. Doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Why do you need that extra $6 million? Your cap's already kind of high. The other one saves you about half, $8.9 million. And that's if you take the current void years, add 2 more. So you got this year plus 4 void years, spreading that out. The problem is that you're creating dead money that's going to accelerate into this year. So I don't think a restructure is very smart, but an extension can be like, okay, well, we think we want you to retire here, but we also want to leave the door open because we're sneaky and we're probably going to fucking trade you if we can.
Well, again, I just put myself in the shoes of the person sitting next to Rand Carthon in the meetings and just saying, well, what, like, obviously, some of this is common sense. It's why I'm not necessarily concerned about a source or not saying this. It's like, of course it's an option because it's the NFL and everything is an option. And if I'm sitting next to Rand Carthon and Rand says, well, what should we do here, man? I'm going, look, Derrick Henry there is a value price point to this 2023 team to which Derrick Henry is just too worth it to them. He's too important to them for them to be competitive, not to mention the sort of outside the field stuff, like breaking an all-time rushing record or just being the face of a franchise, things like that may not matter to like the wins and losses or maybe the cost of a contract. But if you're a new GM that wants to endear himself to a fan base in a year where you're probably going to be 7, 8, 9 wins, barely pushing for a playoff spot, and you're maybe breaking in a new quarterback next year, there's value to Derrick Henry being here. So I'm listening to every possible offer, and unless I see an offer that allows us to, again, the money this year to me, and you're kind of the one who's taught me this, like they just don't need the money for anything now that they've restructured everything and made all these moves. That they're not
getting rid of Derrick Henry and changing his money does not make it easier to trade for a DeAndre Hopkins and Mike Evans or whoever else may be on the trade block, because unless it's T. Higgins or Tyler Boyd or someone on a rookie contract, because those cap hits are still too high, even with the money that you're saving from Derrick Henry. So in this sense, the extension would make sense if the corresponding move is to get one of those wide receivers, those big time wide receivers, and redo their numbers. Because then you can save up to, $9 or $10 million, or maybe even more, because you can mess with all the numbers and kind of like crumple some stuff up and, do all this. But like, you got to this. It's kind of maddening. I think this is what everybody's kind of mad about from the analyst side of things, or from the media side of things, and probably some fans too, is that it feels very shit or get off the pot. Like, and right now they're on the pot, not shitting. They're just sitting there. Their legs are probably have fallen asleep.
So Rand is constipated, is what you're saying. Yeah,
Rand is constipated, and he's not shitting because, like, what is this team, right? Like, the moves say one thing, and then you hear these rumors, and then you see these contracts. Like the rumors again popped up that Ryan Tannehill was trying to get traded, and nobody wanted Ryan Tannehill. Kevin Byard still hasn't shown up, and you still haven't done anything with his contract, which you could easily do. It just seems like this team cannot commit one way or the other. And like, if you extend Derrick Henry, then what are you saying about Tyjae Spears, right? Like, then I mean, what are you?
I don't think this is why I don't think they're going to extend.
It's just do something with Derrick Henry.
I see. This is the thing. Is like I think that the most likeliest and smartest strategy is to do nothing with him.
I think you're right. I
Just like with
agree.
Tannehill, maybe not Bayer. We could talk about Bayer because we think he's different. He has a longer shelf life, more years that are worthy of paying for. So an extension on his contract makes more sense to bring down the number. Also, one of the highest numbers per position relative to what we're talking about. Bring down the number, and he's still good for 3 or 4 years. Well, the Titans are out of the Tannehill Henry business in 12 months. In less than 12 months, they're out of the Tannehill Henry business. It's not their future. Will Levis is their future. Tajay Spears is their future. That's it. So they can keep him here. And what I think they're doing is they're looking at offers and comparing it to, we get these guys for 1 year. What are they worth to us for 1 year? And Derrick Henry is worth the money to have him here to a certain point.
Because you just don't need to mess with it, right? Like at this point, the cap space, once you factor in the draft class and what actually will count towards top 51 salary cap, they'll still be around like $7 million, in cap space. And generally that's enough for the offseason to do whatever you need to do. It just depends on, like, I worry that they're going to extend or restructure this contract or a couple of contracts, and then go out and get DeAndre Hopkins, and he's going to miss 6 games, and then we're in a bigger mess. So, like,
I don't want that either. Look, Derrick Henry is worth X.
For me, it's only if you're getting Mike Evans, T. Higgins. Those two are the only wide receivers that are realistically probably available for a certain price that you should make and mess up with some of this contracts and eat next year if you can get one of those two guys. Because technically, you look at Mike Evans. That's a guy that's still young enough. He's on the right side of 30. That's still young enough that can grow with Will Levis.
I guess he's a veteran. I get he's a veteran presence, but I think he's way closer to Julio Jones and Hopkins than he is T. Higgins. I would do it all for T. Higgins.
Well, yeah, I would do it. I would do it all for T. Higgins. Is obviously a no-brainer because of the youth and everything, but I mean, Mike Evans is nowhere. I think he is one of the most underappreciated, underrated, elite wide receivers in this league. His stats show it. His durability shows it. And he would be a boon for Will Levis, but that's only if you're willing, because his contract's very manageable after this year. So you would have to adjust your money this year and you wouldn't have to really do much except for maybe an extension for him. But he's a guy that is 29 going on 30 that can grow that can help Will Levis have an easy transition when he takes the reins.
Yeah, and I felt like he's dealt with more injury than I thought in my head. He only missed 2 games last year, 1 the year before that, none the year before that, 3 the year before that. So basically, he's been healthy for about 15 games over basically every year of his career. So
10 years of 1,000 yards straight?
Yeah.
He's unbelievable.
To me, Derrick Henry is worth X to the Tennessee Titans. You can calibrate that number however you want. Like, he's worth X amount of wins, X amount of carries, X amount of yards, X amount of goodwill in the community, X amount of value to ticket sales, X amount of TV ratings. Like, any way you could calibrate his value to the Titans fan base, he's worth X. And unless you're getting more than that in a trade, it is not worth trading him because the cap space is not needed as desperately as they think. Tannehill's the same exact thing.
He can't extend Derrick Henry all the way to the new stadium.
No.
By the way, I see that, people are. I think it's. I don't think Tim Dodge is technically saying with the new stadium on the way, they don't want to anger fans. As far as he's not saying that Derrick Henry has to be playing 2027. I don't want to sound like I'm misconstruing what he's saying, but there are people who think you have to have Derrick Henry playing in 2027 when the stadium is open.
Oh my God, there's no way he's playing.
Because if Derrick Henry is still the face of your franchise and best offensive player, this team has royally fucked up by 2027.
Here's exactly what's going to happen in 2027. That's the year they sign him back to the one-day contract, and on the opening day, they retire his number and his name and do the whole thing, put him in the Ring of Honor, open up the stadium and say, look at our all-time rushing record holder because we kept him for one more year, 2023, and he breaks Eddie George's record, and he's a 10,000-yard guy, and he owns every single Titans record there is to own, and they cut him next season this time. Because that's what that is what he is, where he is, and he gives him the best chance to win this year. All of these things that we've just said apply to Ryan Tannehill even more this particular year. But we know what their plan is, which is at minimum to have Will Levis starting in 2024. So we know we kind of know their
haters are mad today. A few on the timeline because I retweeted a tweet and it says Ryan Tannehill has top 10 numbers in yards per attempt, passer rating, completion rate, touchdown per interception ratio, etc. since joining the Titans in 2019. Also has more rushing touchdowns than Lamar Jackson in that span. Who exactly was he supposed to throw the ball to in 2022? The slander needs to stop. And I fully agree with that take. The problem is not Ryan Tannehill in the regular season. It's Ryan Tannehill in the postseason.
Yep. Again, there's a reason that nothing
which also there's a Derrick Henry issue in the postseason as well, but that nobody ever wants to talk about. They just want to shift the blame to Ryan Tannehill. But Derrick Henry and all the losses has not been very good.
Well, that's true. He's also been extraordinary in all the wins when Ryan Tannehill was, even in wins, average at best. There's again, the bottom line is both of these guys are off the team at the end of next season, barring an extension. And that we already have the succession plan for both of them because Rand Carthon just drafted both of them. And this team has a better chance to win and be competitive and be interesting with both of them. They don't have to, they are not in a rush to make any moves. And you want to know why there hasn't been an extension or a trade done is because they are more valuable to this team today at their current prices and their void years than they would be for any other reason. They didn't get enough in a trade offer, so they didn't trade him because they give them a good chance to win this year. And by win, I mean, like, again, 8 or 9 or 10 games, maybe compete for the division at best. Like, that's where they're at.
I do like, I think the schedule release stuff is pretty lame, and the Titan social media team is no Charger social media team. And of course, nobody is, because Charger social media schedule release is always the best. I mean, like, bar none, that what they did last year. I watched what they did last year, the Chargers schedule release, not only 5 times like when it came out, I just watched it a couple of days ago just because I wanted to. Like, I just enjoy it. And I wish the Titans would do something like that. But we'll see.
But Byard is different. Byard's the only one that could be extended. So.
Yeah, I'm interested to see what the Titans do. I'm interested to see the schedule and how it lays out, just for the sheer fact that I still think this team's winning double-digit games.
I think if everything, and we'll get to a lot of what has to break right for this team to do that. Actually, that's going to be a big part of the show today. By the way, Sinkers and the Kingston Group are 2 great local sponsors here on a football show. StackingTheInbox.com, F-Words Pod. Bluegrass is the sponsor over on F-Words Pod. Sinkers over here on a football show. And again, 2 great locally owned companies. Sinkers and Bluegrass, same company. Liquor store in Hendersonville, liquor store in East Nashville, the defending champs, best liquor store in the city by Sinkers. So just go in there, pop in. They've got a great store. They'll help you pick out what you need, whether it's wine for dinner or a nice bourbon. They've got a good collection in there. Unbelievable beer selection. As good a beer selection as any liquor store in the city. Ginormous walk-in cooler with all the local breweries. Make sure you go check it out. Sign up for the in-crowd, of course, as well. And we've got some cool stuff planned. There are a couple of gifts and prizes that we're going to be giving away this summer that are no other show in the history of, like, radio, podcast, digital, YouTube, whatever, is giving away a gift like we're going to give away this summer. I promise you.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
But you have to sign up. Go in there, sign up for the in-crowd. They'll handpick stuff for you because they know what you like, and they'll send you emails saying, hey, are you interested in this? All kinds of cool VIP allocations. And, of course, the Kingston Group, don't make any decisions. Customize, rebuild, sell, buy, whatever. Talk to the Kingston Group first. Have them look at your property. Talk through your problem. They will make sure you make the best possible sound decision for your house. And even if you don't use them, they'll point you in the right direction. But my family uses them. I guarantee you that you will benefit from using them. So make sure you check out the Kingston Group, buildkg.com, and Sinkers Beverages on Uber Eats. Search Uber Eats, Sinkers. They'll deliver the booze right to your house, Zach. Right to your house.
They'll drive so you can drink.
All right, I'm going to take a break. I'm going to take a breath here, I should say. I had a chance to talk with KJ Jefferson, Arkansas quarterback, first-team All-SEC quarterback heading into the season. And we talked about a lot of stuff. That interview is going to be on Fringe Element podcast this week, so make sure you check that out. The full interview with again, an All-American caliber quarterback. But he is very close friends with Treylon Burks, and so I thought you guys might like what he had to say. I asked him a couple of things here about his relationship with the Titans wide receiver. Have you ever gone boar hunting with your bare hands and killed a boar with your bare hands?
No, not at all. I actually went down with Treylon one time. And once he told me, like, they actually can, like, run at you and do all that, I told him, nah, I wasn't going no more. Like, I wouldn't. Don't even take me out there.
Has he given you any advice? I've covered him here in Nashville. He plays for the Titans, obviously, for those that don't know. Have you guys talked at all, given each other advice about how to handle the process, what he's going through in the NFL, what you're going through as, potentially future draft pick and final year in the SEC? What kind of advice do you guys give each other?
Main thing is just being humble. I mean, we always tell each other be humble and don't let the next man outwork you. I mean, that's our, because we both competitors, so we'll get into arguments all the time about who's working the hardest, or so we always just being competitive, but we also understand like being humble and keeping faith and just being able to just put your head down and work is what's going to translate to the next level and get you there and keep you in the league as well. So just perfecting the small details. I mean, that's all we talk about.
There you go, KJ Jefferson. And I had an earlier part of that conversation was sort of like what's making him better. And Dan Enos, the new offensive coordinator, is all about sort of perfecting their craft this year. So I do think that one of my takeaways from Treylon Burks is that the previous offense at Arkansas was not as NFL ready. And so maybe there's some of that where Burks was learning on the fly. But I think the biggest takeaway is that one of his closest friends, who's an All-American quarterback, is all about the grind and the work and putting in the details and trying to stay on top. And, again, not a lot there from KJ, but good to hear those kind of conversations are happening with Treylon Burks before we get into setting the expectations for the second-year wide receiver.
Yeah, I thought it was, it was interesting to hear the outworking each other kind of deal, like, and because that didn't really translate to the start of this offseason, right? Or start of this time last year, it was Asthma-gate. He can't stay in shape. So hopefully, because the only picture I've seen of Treylon Burks of the offseason was him boar hunting, of course. And he's just wearing all this garb. So you don't even know how he really looks, but Ryan Tannehill said he looks good. So we'll see. But it's like we're about to talk about, but the Titans are pinning all their offensive playmaking hopes on the explosives and the passing game on Treylon Burks to turn into A.J. Brown after a not so A.J. Brown rookie season. So like they're really expecting a lot from him.
So I completely agree with the first point, which is they are a lot of pressure is going to be on him to be the top playmaker on the offense outside of Derrick Henry. Now here's where I'll disagree a little bit. A.J. Brown's rookie season, he had 5.2 targets per game, 84 targets. Treylon Burks in his rookie season had 4.9 targets per game as a rookie. So essentially, they were targeted inside the offense the exact same amount of times per game. The difference being Treylon Burks' health. I don't know if this is a hot.
Well, obviously,
sure.
Everybody knows it was his health.
But
I think that matters though, right? Like,
no, of course. Let me get to the health part because I agree with you. It does matter. The concussion to the head on a post route, that's a fluke thing that you can't control. That's not like I didn't work hard enough to get my body in shape kind of thing. That's just something that happens in football. I say that just to say that their pace per game was roughly the same as rookies in terms of how they were used within the offense. I don't know if this is a hot take or not. I think Treylon Burks is going to have an explosive year. I think if he is on the field, you can't dictate health. And maybe his work ethic is a part of this. And maybe that's the question here.
The big difference is the 13.5 yards per reception versus 20.2 yards per reception and being, A.J. Brown had one of the best wide receiver rookie seasons, obviously not just for the Titans, but that year, he got robbed that year of Offensive Player of the Year.
So the next... You're talking about when he was a rookie or talking about the following
when he's
season?
A rookie.
You mean rookie? Okay, rookie of the year. Yeah.
Yeah.
The following season, he had 106 targets as a second-year player. And AJ also, during his career, also dealt with injuries kind of on and off. Not as much as Treylon did in year one, but dealt with them on and off. I think to expect so Corey Davis in 2018 had 112 targets. AJ went 84, led the team. 106 led the team in 2020. 105 led the team in 2021. And then last year, I can't believe this, but Robert Woods led the team in targets with 91 targets. I think it's okay to expect 100-plus targets, maybe even 110, which would be about 6.5 per game, which is about what AJ did for his career in the Tennessee Titans offense, which I've got some more context that's important because the Tennessee Titans offense clearly does not throw the football as much as everybody else. So I do have a question for you about the trend of being 31st, 30th, 26th, and 30th in pass attempts, no matter the coordinator under Mike Vrabel. But I don't think it's crazy to expect Treylon Burks to have a breakout 100, 110 target, 70, 80 catch season and be a legitimate number one receiver. Is he a top 10 player in the league? No. At his position? No, I'm not saying that. But I think he can absolutely be what they drafted him to be in 2023.
Well, he can be. I mean, that's for sure. I mean, they need him to be. Like, I think that is the big key thing. I don't think anybody's questioning the talent of Treylon Burks necessarily as much as they're questioning the idea of really leaning heavily on a trio of pass catchers. And they're expecting NWI to be NWI, which is being Robert Woods, and like they're expecting him to get like 500, 600 yards. I mean, you'd be lucky if he gets that high, but that's probably what they're expecting. You know, they're expecting a lot out of Treylon Burks. I hope he delivers. They need him to deliver, more importantly, because they need someone that could take the pressure off of Derrick Henry. They need him and Chigokonkwo and Kyle Phillips to be guys that you have to kind of pay attention to while also trying to pay attention to Derrick Henry. And all three of those guys matter to this team and its success in the passing game in 2023, despite them always being in 30th and 31st and all that kind of stuff. Because to me, yeah, you would love for, and maybe they are going to switch because maybe you need to be looking at the Houston Texans and how they ran their offense and what attempts they were from 2019 to 2021 with Tim Kelly, what they were under Bill O'Brien. Maybe that changes some. Maybe they're going to be low 20s. You know, maybe they're 24th in pass attempts. But sometimes the difference between when you are looking at these stats and looking at 30th versus 24th, maybe that's like 15 extra passes or something. Like, I don't know, but typically,
so I can give you. So I've got a lot of questions I want you to kind of give me like over unders on, sort of like, do we think they go up or do you think they go down? And I've got a bunch of these names, and we're going to get into the players: Kyle Phillips, Chigokonkwo, Treylon Burks, a few other names. But I wanted to kind of level set real fast. So in 2018, 437 attempts. That was 31st under Matt LaFleur. That was all Mariota. 2019, 448 attempts, 31st in the NFL, all Art Smith and A.J. Brown's rookie season, and 2/3 of the season with Tannehill. 2020, 485 attempts. This is as a team, 30th in the NFL. That was Art Smith. 2021 was the high water mark, 535 pass attempts under Mike Vrabel. Todd Downing, ironically, 26th in the league. So they threw the ball like 70 or 80 more times that season to just get to 26th. So it is to answer your question kind of on like where they're at. Last year, 456 pass attempts, 30th in the league, obviously under Downing. So
they would add 2 more pass attempts, they'd have been like 29th. You get what I'm saying? So
it's like 4 a game.
Yeah, I mean, like
maybe 5
more
a game.
pass attempts, and if you let's say you needed 2 more pass attempts total, by the way, to beat the Carolina Panthers, who are at 457. So if you wanted to get into the San Francisco 49ers, because nobody ever really talks about the 49ers being a team that runs a lot. We have talked about it, but everybody kind of forgets it. The San Francisco 49ers were 26 in pass attempts, 512. So that is
it's about like 3 per game.
Yeah,
more.
So there's 56. So if you divide that by 17, yeah. If you threw 4 more pass attempts per game, you'd be higher than the San Francisco 49ers.
Right.
Like,
so I guess
you
my question
look at it that way. It's good to not get focused on the pass attempts number as much as it is what you do with the pass attempts. And the problem is that while Ryan Tannehill was efficient, everybody else around him was not. And so that leans into Chigokonkwo getting more snaps, Kyle Phillips not having hamstring issues this year, because that's what I think everybody thinks that he was out due to the shoulder injury. He was out 2 games, I believe is 2 games for the shoulder injury, and then he came back and he's ready to go, and he was getting eased back into the offense, and then he got the hamstring issue, the dreaded Titans hamstring injury that keeps you out for like 3 to 5 years for whatever.
So
reason.
If they attempted 4 more passes per game, they would have finished 24th last year instead of 30th. So that's a good place to understand. If they do 5 more pass attempts per game, they move up to early 20s. My question for you is, and some of this was in the inbox, some of this has been on your analysis of Todd Downing versus Tim Kelly versus Arthur Smith. It's formations, it's down and distance situational. Do you think this team throws the ball more with Tim Kelly than 30th in the league? Do you think they're going to go up from here in general?
I mean, I still think they'll probably be like if they get to 500 pass attempts, I'd be very surprised.
Which they've done once under Mike Vrabel, one time.
Right. So like I just would be very surprised just because I look at it this way. Injuries, Derrick Henry. Like those are your two reasons why you don't have pass attempts. And injuries has been the biggest bugaboo of this team for the last 2 years. And when your injuries are all happening mainly at the wide receiver position, you feel like Mike Vrabel, who the fuck are you going to throw it to? So, why would you put yourself in that situation?
Yes.
You lean on the run game.
All right. Sinkers, Kingston Group, great sponsors. Check them out. Stacking the Inbox. Great stuff on the 11 personnel on Kyle Phillips. We're going to get to all these guys. I got a couple of numbers for you that are kind of we need to set the stage for the conversation because I've already told you how I feel about Burks. I think expecting 100 target season plus is what I would expect from Treylon Burks. If he does not get 100 targets and plays a full season, I would be extremely disappointed in Burks and or his deployment, one of the two. So that's kind of my thoughts on that. I don't, is that 800 yards? Is that Corey Davis kind of season? Is that an A.J. Brownish kind of season? I think he has A.J. Brown ability, maybe not the explosiveness. I think he's far better than Corey Davis, so I'm okay with expecting more than Corey Davis and maybe less than A.J. Brown in terms of just like yards and touchdowns. But here's a couple of things I wanted to ask you. Derrick Henry had his most targets ever as a running back last year, 41. Is 30 about right? He's been kind of between 20 and 40 the last 4 years. Can you expect that out of him? Over under 41 targets for Derrick Henry.
Oh, I would probably go under with if all things. So when I say over under, everybody else has to stay healthy, right? Like if Treylon Burks and Kyle Phillips aren't there, or Chika Okonkwo's not there either, he's probably going to see more targets. But with the addition of Tyjae Spears, I think that eats into his targets as well. And so I would probably go under on Derrick Henry.
I've got under as well. I'm projecting I'm in that 30 range. I think 30 is good. So here's a couple other questions then. Dion Lewis was number 2 in targets in 2018. He had 67 targets. Oof. Obviously a pass catching receiver like crazy. He was number 2 behind Corey Davis's 112. Is Tyjae Spears over under 50 targets? 67 was the most by a running back in this sort of Mike Vrabel era.
Gosh, he's way under that. I mean, like I think you're looking.
Okay.
Yeah, I think you're looking at probably like 40 targets.
Okay, all right, 40 targets. Okay, how about Nick Westbrook-Akine? 50 targets last year, 57 targets the year before. It was number 2 the year before. He was number 4 last year. We don't want him to be number 2 or 3 even in targets.
And it doesn't matter what you fucking want.
So is it about 50 again? Is that about
over
under 50?
I think you may even see more targets this year. Okay. I mean, they're going in with the idea that right now he is wide receiver 2, baby. Joe Rexrode was right. He was just a few years early.
So Chris Moore had 74 targets last year for a godforsaken Texans receiving corps. Not all that much better this year. He caught 46 passes, but really the 74 targets are interesting to me. What is a good prognostication for Chris Moore's targets if he is number wide receiver 3 or 4, give or take?
Yeah, I would put it at
30?
About 50.
Whoa, okay, 50. All right. Okay.
Yeah, well, you got to think. Okay, so Robert Woods, man, let's see.
Woods had 90. Woods had 91.
Yeah, Woods had 91. So a few of those are going to go to Treylon Burks. Some of those are going to go Nick Westbrook-Akine. Some of those go to Kyle Phillips. So yeah, maybe like 30.
Okay, so 30 is good. I'm good with that. Okay, that basically puts us at about 250 if you count Burks at 100. So here's Adam Humphries in 2019 was 3rd on the team with 47 targets. So Kyle Phillips and this is where we can get into Kyle Phillips now. Kyle Phillips over under 47 targets in 2023.
Oh, over. I mean, I think if he stays healthy, you're looking at I think you're looking at a guy that is getting, and how many did you say, 50?
So Adam Humphries caught 47. So if you want to say 50 is the over-under, does he go over
I'm going over because I think he's going to get probably like 63 to 75.
Okay, I'll go 70 then. Sound good?
Yeah.
All right, now explain why we like him Again, you wrote about it a little bit. Obviously, if they're going to go 11 personnel, they need a third receiver on the field. And who's that guy? Well, it's a guy that, so I want you to go here, but I do want to reiterate one point about Kyle Phillips. This is the guy that was in camp last year, turning everyone's head, including the coach, the general manager, and the quarterback, every single practice, is still Kyle Phillips. Mm-hmm. Like, just because he did some stuff in the season that we don't love doesn't mean that he wasn't the player that was running with the ones, number one slot receiver, getting praise from Ryan Tannehill and Mike Vrabel every single practice. Just for the record, I think that the regular season, this is going to sound weird, the regular season for Kyle Phillips might have been blown out of proportion relative to his upside.
It totally was. And he has become an afterthought. And I think it is utterly ridiculous and irresponsible of those that are in the media with a platform to just casually dismiss him as wide receiver 3 and put Chris Moore over him. Now, this is all banking on being healthy, but last year was not because of his size. It was because he fell awkwardly, just like Mark Andrews did, missed about the same amount of games that 300 or 200-pound Mark Andrews did, and came back and he had a hamstring issue. And let me tell you something. If you've been following the Tennessee Titans, you know that size has nothing to do with your hamstring issue. You could be fat as hell or you could be skinny as shit. It does not matter. You're walking away with a hamstring issue at some point if you're a Tennessee Titan.
So you're telling me size doesn't matter, is what you're saying.
And he's making a point, like Roger McCreary, to better take care of his body like a pro. That is a huge learning curve for rookies coming in. I mean, there was a reason why Roger McCreary's now not eating baked beans anymore. You could get away with it in college, but sure as hell didn't help throughout the week and help with your nutrition and stuff. And he played in college, according to TennesseeTitans.com, Kyle Phillips in college, in a recent interview with Jim Wyatt, played 193 pounds. He played in the low end of 180 at the beginning of the year. Obviously getting in shape for the combine, and then obviously you shrink a lot in the summer. So it's up to you to maintain a healthy weight, maintain healthy muscle, and all that kind of stuff. He's wanting to play in the 190s to 195. So he's probably already going to gain 7 to 10 pounds or 7 to 12 pounds on top of that. So that's really good for him. He got 9 freaking targets in his week 1 debut, and because he muffed a couple of punts, everybody thinks he's a shitty-ass wide receiver. Hello. That has nothing to do with being a wide receiver. He should not be a returner, that's for sure. Now, I know he said that he may, he's been working on it and hitting jugs machines and this and that and us. Listen, man, if I was Rand Carthon and Mike Vrabel and I saw that interview and read that interview, I'd be saying, you're not a returner. Did you not see the press conference where I told Rand Carthon to get me a returner? Don't know who that is, but it ain't you. Because we want to lessen your hits. Right. We want you to be a focal point of this offense. And I'm telling you right now, to just dismiss Kyle Phillips, that he is not going to be a factor because you don't think that this team passes enough. There are 400 and something pass attempts to go around, and you got Chig, and you got Treylon Burks. Other than that, you got Kyle Phillips. He's going to have to catch some balls.
Dude, it's so funny you say that because I'm about to lay this out. With Henry at 30 targets and Spears at 40, that's 70. NWI at 50, which is about what he's done 2 years in a row. Chris Moore at 30. We could even bump that up if we wanted to because he had 70 plus. 100. Treylon Burks at 100. And Kyle Phillips at 70. That only gets us to 320. Yeah. Which is still 150 shy of the average for Vrabel as one of the least passing offenses in the NFL. So that the only names we have not mentioned as to projecting where they could be targets and how they could be part of this offense. Chigakonkwo, which on purpose we have not mentioned yet. Josh Wiley.
Yeah.
Hassan Haskins, Trayvon Wesco, Racey McMath. There is nobody else.
Racey McMath ain't making the team. You might as well replace Colton Dow with Racey McMath.
Sure, add him too, dude. There's no one else. I'm still 150 targets shy of what the average Mike Vrabel offense has done.
Kyle Phillips is the wide receiver 3. Don't fight it. Just accept
No, I agree.
He may even end up being wide receiver 2 because everybody's like, well, he's a slot-only guy. Well, you should tell that to the Tennessee Titans and how they used him because he's a slot majority guy or slot mostly guy. because they put him outside 21 snaps last year versus 41 in the slot. That means they're going to move him around. And that means that he's not only a 11 personnel wide receiver. Open up your mind and actually watch the offense. Like, I feel like people aren't watching the offense, and I feel like you get people out there that will write a whole article about, well, the Titans are definitely going to increase their 12 personnel because Tim Kelly is here and the 11 personnel is not happening anymore. What world? Tim Kelly used 11 personnel 70% of the time on passing situations.
It's the most, isn't it the most common formation in the NFL?
It's the most common formation in the NFL. Everybody uses it. Listen, maybe the problem is that they're not diverse enough outside of 11 and 12 personnel. That is fine. Okay. I agree. And I meant to write that in the article and I didn't. So here you go. Here's a freebie for those that didn't pay. Maybe you all need to be complaining that they're only using 11 and 12 personnel. Maybe they need to go and branch out to different situations. I want
22 personnel.
Yeah. They pass from 11 personnel at or above the league average. And the Tim Kelly passes 70% or more from 11 personnel.
Yes. Okay. So
get your heads out your asses and actually look at some data instead of living in your cave thinking that you know everything just because it's Mick Vrabel. He just does piss about that.
Well, okay, I don't even understand what you just said. Go to Sinkers and drink some more. Here's the question that like is not even a question. It's just the common sense calculus here for Vrabel and Carthon in the war room was another weapon or Tajay Spears, another weapon or Peter Skoronski, another weapon or trade up for Levis. And every single time they thought what they did was more valuable to their team than the other thing they could have done, which is draft a wide receiver. So you may not like that strategy, but some of that is their evaluation of Kyle Phillips is baked into some of that, whether you like it or not. That's just the truth of it. I agree with you. Do I think he's going to go Adam Humphries 47? I think he should be in that 50 to 60 target range, 40-ish catches, hopefully a lot of them for first downs, a lot of them in that, like you're talking about, their 11 personnel situation. I think they're going to use him a lot. I think the camp that we saw from him last year was real life. That doesn't just disappear. He is still a tactician of his routes. He's still incredibly tough. He's still incredibly dependable. Great hands catcher. Like, he's all the things we saw for like 3 months in rookie OTAs and mini camp and camp. And all the Titans people still love the guy. Just now, another year of injuries, and maybe he's too small for the league. We can decide that later. But for now,
it depends on the injuries. Like, sure, if someone steps on him and they crush him like an ant, then yeah, that is because of size. If it's just because he just fell weird or because he pulled a hamstring, has nothing to do with it.
So that brings us to Chig, who I think this is an interesting one to me. Austin Hooper was number 2 on the team last year in targets with 60. Jonnu Smith is the top tight end of the Vrabel era with 65 targets in 2020. You also had
Delaney didn't beat that at all.
I don't think Delaney and Vrabel overlapped one year. I don't think they did. Jonnu Smith, 44 targets, was the top tight end target guy in 2019. Ferkser had 53 targets in 2020.
I saw him at Geodis Park this past week.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. He and oh god, this is one of my favorite stats. So in 2021, it was AJ, NWI. Julio Jones was number 3 with 48 targets. You know who's number 4 on the team in targets in 2021?
That had to be Jeff Swaim, right?
Chester Rogers.
Ugh.
With 43 targets, tied with Anthony Ferkser. The point is, tight ends in this offense have between 40 and 65 targets over the course of the year. Jonnu is clearly the most talented. Hooper probably the most dependable.
If Chig doesn't have 65 targets minimum, this team needs to be arrested for malpractice.
I was going to say 60, over under 60, which is what Hooper got last year. And I think you need to expect more.
Yeah. He's got to get more. They're at a point they cannot afford for him to not get more. It should be, in terms of targets for this team, Treylon Burks, and this is targets and snaps. Treylon Burks, Chig Okonkwo, Kyle Phillips, whoever else you want to throw in there, because those are your top 3 guys. If you do not think those are the top 3 pass catchers that they're relying on in this offense, you're taking fucking crazy pills. And listen, that's a lot of eggs in a small basket.
And I get it. They're all young and they're all inexperienced. You're gonna need like, the next 3 are gonna be Henry, Spears, and NWI. And the idea is to go to them as backup plans for the first 3. So even if we add 60 more targets to this list, I'm at 380. I'm still almost 100 shy of what they average.
Yeah, right. I mean, it's ridiculous.
So the only one we haven't talked about is like, okay, Josh Wiley, 20 targets this year, maybe?
I mean,
maybe 30?
Maybe. What did Michael Pruitt and Jeff Swaim as secondary tight ends? I think they got like 30 targets apiece at some point. Like, that makes sense. Or maybe what Chig got last year would make sense for him. Because I don't think Trevon Wesco should see less or the same amount of targets that Jeff Swaim saw last year. Josh Wiley probably sees the same amount of targets Chig did. I think you take Austin Hooper, then Chig, and then Jeff Swaim, and then it's going to be Chig, Josh Wiley, Trevon Wesco.
I think the key is that two things here, I think is what we're trying to say, is that Treylon Burks, Kyle Phillips, and Chig Okonkwo are expected to be the focal point of the passing attack. We think they have some ability to do that, but the Titans are relying on 3 second-year players to carry the load, which, and if you do the math, you're talking about at least half of the targets. You're talking about at least half the targets, if not more, are going to go to those 3 second-year players. With NWI and Derrick Henry and Tajay Spears, also a rookie. You know, maybe you mix in Wiley and Powell, but now you're talking about all rookies and second-year guys. They are putting a lot on these guys. And
it sure seems there's a big hole, and we know there's a hole missing, right? Like there sure seems like a target vacuum is waiting to be filled by some way. And now the Tennessee Titans have talked about it, but I don't know who do you get that can eat up some of this target share that is missing from the Tennessee Titans from last year. I don't know.
This is just for Stoney. I would go way over 50 targets for Tajay Spears.
Oh, yeah?
I think Spears is going to be in the offense regularly.
Well, I guess that Dontrell Hilliard last year was trending to have a lot of targets. So, yeah, I could see that.
I think Spears is the guy who gets like Phillips goes way up, Chig goes way up, Burks goes way up. We've already done that, and we're still 100 shy.
Yeah.
I think it's Spears. I think you can't rely on Henry to go more than 41 because that's what he was last year. I don't think asking him to do more is fair. I think NWI rate at 50 is about right. Okay, to me, it is almost exclusively about who's the X factor that we don't know could come in and catch 35 passes on 50 targets. It's Tajay Spears. Like that's the reason.
Targets for Chig would be, I guess that would be Delaney. That'd break Delaney Walker's target number because Delaney Walker back when he first got here, he was 96 targets. I think, as someone told me.
Here, I can look at if you talk for a second, I can glance at it real fast.
That would be like an all-time tight end target record.
Okay, all right.
It has to be, right?
All right, so Tennessee, here's Delaney Walker's last.
Oh, no, look, 106,
133. Yeah, those are those are 133 for a tight end is
maybe nuts. We are underselling Chig.
I still don't know if asking to do more than Jonnu's 65 is, and maybe we can't. Maybe the offense has no choice.
Jonnu was asked to block a lot, so you're not going to have that. And now Delaney was in all the time. Jonnu wasn't. I don't think it was ever necessarily in all the time, but you also had AJ Brown and Corey Davis. It's a little different when Chig Okonkwo and it's Treylon Burks, and that's really the only person here. And listen, they may be treating Chig Okonkwo as a wide receiver. They may not even treat him as a tight end.
So it's funny. In 2020, Jonnu had 65, which was third on the team, to your point, behind 92 for Davis and 106 for AJ. So clearly the top 2 targets, the 2 wide receivers, then Jonnu at 3. But Jonnu had more targets that year than Austin Hooper did last year, and Austin Hooper was number 2 on the team in targets.
Yeah, but you got to remember, they started off really slow with Austin Hooper snaps and all that kind of stuff. It took a while for Austin Hooper to get integrated in the offense.
So I guess overall, I think 1,000 yards, 8 touchdowns for Treylon Burks is maybe a little less. Maybe that's a little below kind of an AJ Brown season for the Titans, not for the Eagles, but for the Titans. I think Phillips is in that 45 to 50 catch range for 500 yards, maybe a couple touchdowns. I don't care about the touchdowns as much as I care about the first downs with Kyle Phillips. But Chig is the one you're going, all right, is this a 60-catch tight end, a 50-catch tight end that can go for 500 yards and 7 or 8 touchdowns? Does he score a few times on the ground? That's another question. But I think, you're asking a whole lot of 3 second-year players and Tajay Spears, in my opinion. That's 4 very young players that you're asking a lot of. So we'll see what happens. I just think we wanted to set expectations for all you folks out there.
Yeah.
as it pertains to these three guys, and give Kyle Phillips a little love as well. The guy was every day at camp, Zach. Every day at camp.
Oh, I know.
It's how good is that guy? Another great route, another great rep, another great one-on-one, another great. I mean, he just every single practice he was good. I don't think that just disappears because of a bad rookie season. So I think fans will be pleasantly surprised with Kyle Phillips. Okay, you want to tell everybody about your go to Sinkers, baby, and go to Kingston Group. What had you all hot and bothered on Saturday at Geodis?
I don't know where self-awareness has gone in society. The amount
Twitter.
of people that, first off, on the way to the stadium that are just like, I don't even like snail's pace, I guess it is. And then they're 4 wide deep on the bridge that goes from the dog park area up to the stadium. Like they're 4 deep and like you can't really get around them, and they're right in the middle. And then like what are you doing? Luckily, one of them got a phone call, and then they moved off to the side to take the phone call. I'm surprised they didn't try to take it right there and try to shout on a speakerphone. Like,
you're not talking about people in cars. You're talking about people walking.
People walking.
Okay.
I mean, they're going 4 deep on a bridge with limited space to get around because they're hefty people. And it's just ridiculous. First off, and they're just going so slow. Oh, look at the light. Oh, sunshine. Look at the leaves. Like, give me a break there. Like, you got people trying to get into the stadium, trying to get inside. First off, the empanadas were great. Love the empanadas. No line at the empanada line when we went, which I was very surprised. That did not happen later. But
it's the kids. The kids want the pizza and the hot dogs, and those are the 2 longest lines.
Oh, we got there way early. I mean, that line did not last like that. I mean, that was a once in a lifetime moment. That was awesome. So we sit down in our seats. Okay. So we sit down in our seats. We're in the aisle seats. So I know I have to get up and down. That's not a big deal. That's part of the responsibility of being an aisle seat guy.
And worth it to be on the aisle.
Yeah.
Worth it.
Okay, so it's just us 2 on the aisle. And then there's 2 dudes about 9 seats down on the same aisle, and then nobody else. These dudes made us get up 3 fucking times. Instead of just going down, walking a little bit of ways and going where there's nobody they have to get up, or going into the empty row that was completely empty up to like 5 minutes after the game started. I mean, the whole row in front of us was completely empty. So they could have stepped down. They were young guys. They could have stepped down and then got out that way instead of making us get up 3 times.
So they're
not
okay.
only that.
So they're in the middle. They're in the middle of the section. You're on the aisle, and they could go the other direction and not ask anybody to get up.
Yeah.
All right. So real quickly on that topic, because I think you're absolutely right. I agree with you. So we were at Maren Morris. Me and my 2 small children and my wife are sitting on the aisle, and these 3 girls that are clearly human beings I have no desire to talk to come down the steps in their little matching boots and their cowboy hats, and this is like club level at Bridgestone. And they come down and they look at me and they think I'm in their seat because they've got tickets on the aisle. So they think they're in our seats. And so they look down and they're like, oh, are you guys 1, 2, 3, 4? We're like, no, we're 17, 18, 19, and 20. Like, we're the last 4. So clearly their seats are on literally the opposite end of the section. There's no one else. I look at her and I kind of just am like, yeah, you might want to go. I'm like, I kind of do I'm trying not to be rude, but it's like, you might want to go around the other side. Like, it'll be easier for you. There's an entire row of people, including children, and they didn't even blink. They were just like, yeah, can you excuse us? Can we go through every single human to get to the last seats on the other end of the aisle?
Ridiculous.
What are we doing, America?
Stupidity. And that happened to the guys in front of us. Some guys, they got there, and a crew of drunk guys came down, and they're late. They're late. But they were very polite. I will say this, and they were trying to figure out which section they were in. I said, well, this is 117, and they said they showed it to me, and I was like, yeah, it's 117. You're in this row, but you're on the other side. And they said, well, they're in the middle. They're actually in the direct middle. And one of the guys in the group goes, no, we'll just go around. Like, we're not going to make you get up. We'll just go around. And you know what these guys in front of us did? They actually said, no, you guys could just come out through. And I thought that was really nice. I said that they're a lot nicer than me, because I would just said, I told Lauren, I said, I would just say, go right around. But I thought this is for
Stoney. This is for Stoney. They're a bunch of toppers. That's what they are.
Yeah. But and then we had people that just couldn't sit still. in and out, in and out. I don't know if they had bladder issues, but they were still choosing to come down our side instead of going down the other side. Like, I don't know what was so magical about our particular section's set of stairs that everybody had to come through this, but it was incredibly rude. And I thought that I ran into rude people everywhere that weren't paying attention, and they weren't necessarily drunk and not paying attention. Like, I get it. You know, sometimes you drink and not pay attention. And let me say this. As a purveyor of men's clothing, I think it's utterly ridiculous that Geodis's team locker room and for the Titans or for the Nashville Soccer Club apparel locker rooms, what I'm saying, and all their tents and everything, 5 women options. Lauren was so disappointed that she could not get a yellow women's shirt for the Nashville Soccer Club because all they had was that fucking Johnny Cash black, and all they had was like navy sweatshirts. Ridiculous by them not to. And let me say something. Easily 50% or more of that attendance on Sunday or Saturday's game was female, and it's ridiculous that they don't have enough.
The only place you can get kids, and this is true, the only place, so the one down by, so I have season tickets in the family section on the south end zone, which there used to be a clothing store down there that was just for kids. It was a kids store. It turned out that you can't put the only shop on one end, so they've now opened 3. There are 3 of them now, and the only one that has kids stuff. I had to walk down at halftime. I ended up missing one of the goals 2 weeks ago with my daughter, who's 4. The only place I can get anything that fits her is all the way down at the real big one, and the only time to go into the big one without standing in a long line is during the match. And so I agree with the options. As someone who loves the Johnny Cash black, I'm not going to hate.
It's all right, but like, I mean, where's the women's clothing? I mean, they literally only had like 5 options for women. Oh, she was so mad.
It's got to be down.
We had a fantastic time. Other than I know it doesn't sound like we did, but we enjoyed the match. It was a great soccer game. We enjoyed our seatmates in front of us.
Yeah, it's awesome, dude. And Hani Mukhtar had a hat trick, dude. It's great. It was a lot of fun. And the Chicago coach is fired now. So there you go.
Oh, I didn't even know that. That's great.
Yeah. They got the coach fired. I will say this about the seat etiquette thing. It is a simple math equation. It is the number of seats between you and the aisle. You go the shortest distance, unless it's a number of people thing. So if you and Lauren are the only 2 at the end, and these other 2 guys maybe are closer to the other aisle, but have like 9 guys to go through, then I'm okay with them going past you. Does that make sense? Like if there's
if there was 9 people on the other side, but let's not take into account you got to look at vertically right? So you got to look up and down.
Is this a Ray Carthon draft board? What are we doing?
You got to look up and down and see if there's spots that you can crawl over a seat and get to without being in someone else's way.
I tend to agree
crawling
with that.
over people should be the last resort.
Yes. If there are 7 people to my right and 2 people to my left, I'm going to go to the left.
Yeah, obviously.
That's it. Even if I'm a little closer to the aisle, but I agree. There's been some crazy aisle etiquette problems going around. I will say, I love that park. The concourses are huge. My only real complaint is they don't have enough TVs in the concourse. That's my only complaint. They need a big screen like every 30, 40 yards or whatever. So either way, it's an awesome place to go. And even during a crazy Saturday night with people at Ascend and people at Nissan, I still got in and out pretty quickly. So you just gotta know where to go.
We have real issues with rideshare. Let me just say this. God bless cops, but how dare you block the entrance to the rideshare pickup and not let rideshare drivers into the rideshare pickup? What kind of madness and stupidity is that? Just want to throw that out there. You don't want people to drive drunk, but you sure do make it fucking annoying not to drive yourself and get drunk.
I have one solution to all these problems.
Helicopters.
Not a single stadium in the EPL has a parking lot because they don't need them. That's it. That's all I'm going to say. That's it. It's over. You don't need parking lots, people. You need public transportation. Go to Sinkers. Go to the Kingston Group. It's all great places there. Stackingtheinbox.com. F-words as well. His name is Zach Lyons. My name's Braden Gall. We'll be back on Thursday. Zach, thanks for hanging out, man. Thanks for all you guys for hanging out as well. I hope you guys had a great weekend. We'll talk to you on Thursday. Thanks for listening, everybody.
Oh, I didn't know that we were actually signing off.
Get out of here. Get out of here.
Get out of here. We don't want you.
Bye.